We have then I can so we have vision in our focus is ready to that and their vision. I will also promise feedback for the secretariat. The current legal actions. I would suggest also this representative is not that here. That we do is after the so Alex, please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we're going to resume the presentation of the scientific committee report, and we're going to report on the species of groups that are species based, and starting with the conservation management plan subcommittee. Conservation management plans are an important initiative of the Commission, and they provide thank you, Robert, a framework for international coordination among range states and relevant stakeholders, funding opportunities, collaborative conservation planning, and protection of species or stocks of high priority, including those with low levels and high risk or threat levels. The CMP subcommittee coordinates with other scientific community subgroups to review research on CMP species or priority species and provide advice to enhance the science and conservation of these species. Thank you. There is currently 5 endorsed CMPs, and they're shown on the map here. The Western Pacific gray whales was the first CMP was developed in conjunction with the IUCN. Then we have 2 for right whales, the Southwest Atlantic and the Southeast Pacific right whale CMP. We have the Francis Clement Dolphin CMP, which was the first CMP for a small cetacean. And we have the South American river dolphin CMP, which is the first multi-species CMP. In addition to existing CMPs, the Commission identified a number of priority species or stocks candidates for potential first emissions. Work is ongoing in collaboration with the conservation community to further develop this CMPs in coordination with range states and other relevant stakeholders. So over the last 4 years, the subcommittee on CMP reviewed information received from all existing CMPs and from some priority species or stocks. We would like to highlight, number 1, that for Western Pacific gray whales, Southeast Atlantic right whales, and Southwest Atlantic right whales and Southeast Pacific right whales, the committee reviewed results of long-term studies, recognized the value of international collaboration, and commended countries involved in research and range states deep dive. The committee also made several recommendations for future work to address CMP or CMP priorities. The committee has been reviewing the status of the Francis Clement Dolphin with the goal of updating the research and monitoring actions of these CMPs. The committee expects to conclude the review of the status of the Francis Clement at the next SC meeting in 2023. The CMP for South American river dolphins was developed after the last in-person meeting of the Commission in 2018. The scientific committee advised the member countries in the range of South American river dolphins on the development of research and monitoring actions during preparation of the CMP proposal. The committee endorsed the proposal in 2021. The South American river dolphin CMP proposal was subsequently approved by the Conservation Committee and endorsed by the Commission during the virtual special meeting last year. committee reviewed information on priority species and encouraged member countries to continue the development and proposal of these species. During the intersessional period, the scientific committee focused on Central America and Arabian Sea humpback whales and on Mediterranean female spur whales. CMPs for Mediterranean species are being developed in coordination with ACLAS. And the committee also recommended funding proposals that directly address research needs for existing CMPs or for candidate species or stocks, in line with the commission or committee and commission priorities. And now I'm going to hand it back to Robert to continue on the species-based groups.
Thank you, Alex. So we'll now talk about the subcommittee that's called In-Depth Assessment, IA, and we'll talk about two other subcommittees in just a little bit that especially feed into IA. And so as the name implies, that we're doing in-depth assessment on whales that are not hunted by member countries. Okay? So for North Pacific humpback whales, there's a large amount of data available, photographs, biopsy samples, and the map on the right depicts the areas where all of these samples have been collected. So all of that information feeds in to the in-depth assessment, helps us understand stock structure, helps us understand risk to population, and so this is similarly, we are conducting an in-depth assessment on North Pacific sei whales, and all of the different areas outlined in red are the areas where we have samples and data. And so similar to humpback whales talked about just a moment ago, all of those feed into the in-depth assessment again with stock structure issues and risk populations and subpopulations. And along those same lines, we're also doing an in-depth assessment on North Pacific common dinky whales and all of those different shapes with numbers in the middle of them are the areas where the samples are broken down. Specific areas are used for. And so for the plan and the next assessments, we anticipate starting Antarctic blue whale assessment and the North Atlantic humpback whale assessment next year. And then non-Antarctic southern hemisphere blue whales and North Atlantic humpback whales. We got something wrong there, but anyway, that other species. So the subcommittees that especially feed into IA, one of them is Northern Hemisphere, and one of the species that they have been focused on here recently, well, for quite a while, is the North Atlantic fragments. And the scientific committee has expressed serious concern about the population because it's small, only about 340 individuals. It's declining and is vulnerable to bycatch and other human impact in the eastern U.S. and in Canada. And so we have made some recommendations to try to improve mitigation measures. Certainly encourage the U.S. and Canada to try to reduce entanglement and ship strikes to zero as quickly as possible. So I mentioned Rice's whales earlier, that newly recognized species. Its core habitat is in the Gulf of Mexico, and its range, as we know it, overlaps tremendously with various human activities. And the most concerning issue is the population number is about 50 indigenous. And so this is probably the most at risk, the smallest of population of large whales out there, and so we have expressed serious concern this year, and of course, we'll look at new data. and new data. And in order to this year, subcommittee is also impact whales and feed-ins. And so we're trying to compile and evaluate data, stock structure, abundance, and those types of issues. And so now we'll pass on the clicker and microphone.
Thank you. And so I want to talk to you about the small cetacean subcommittee, often referred to as SMALS. We have a large remit. We cover more than 70 species, which we review either by species or topic based on a priority list that has been endorsed by the scientists. There are species that we discuss every year, and these tend to be the species which face the greatest threats. And there are some what dry scientific reports speak. It's challenging to express the gravity of the current status of several small cetacean species. For some, the committee's commentary has escalated from expressions of concern to frustration to extreme frustration. As we watch, for example, the pizza and the Maori dolphin dwindle numbers which are unlikely to be viable in the long term. The rapid decline of some species has led the committee to react more quickly through processes like the Southern Initiative for the Kiwi dolphin and the Intersessional Correspondence Group for the Guyana dolphin. This allows threats and data gaps to be assessed more rapidly and with the provision of clear and pragmatic recommendations for both the research community and range states to consider. In some instances, the concerns raised within our task teams have been the establishment of dedicated groups external to the IWC who have decided to address our recommendations, such as the Netherlands-based NGO which has been established to look at Atlantic combined volumes. Don't worry though, it's not all doom and gloom. Recommendations in support of this committee have contributed to an improvement in status for a few populations, such as the Asian river dolphin. In some parts of its range, and the anti-finless porpoise in China. We also contribute to species assessment through collaboration with other IMO conventions and authorities. In the last few years, we have participated in a harbor population review, and moving forward, we will commence a review of small islands of the Pacific Islands conservation in collaboration with the Restricted Continental Environment Program. One of our standing agenda items is the documentation of directed dates, which we collate from national progress reports, published databases, and in some cases, report surveys and online data. In the last 3 years, we have consolidated and validated 20+ year dates of multiple species. We are now conducting a gap analysis to identify where we can understand trends immediately and where, with additional data, we can complete a more in-depth review. In recent years, several populations have been identified as being detrimentally impacted from weather. In addition to the intersectional groups and task teams that deal with species, we also work intersectionally to build and grow collaborations with other entities. We also react to requests from various states to provide immediate assistance. For example, in 21 and 22, we worked with governments of Spain to provide advice on managing poultry dolphins, investigating conflict between killer whales and humans. We also have several priority topics which we work on annually or as required. And I would particularly like to highlight our ongoing review, the effect of the recommendations that smalls have made so that we can ensure our work is relevant and useful to both the Commission and to the greater scientific community. Our priority species and themes help us to identify the most critical work that needs funded, and we use the Small Cetacean Voluntary Fund to support this work. Since 2019, we have supported 5 projects in Nepal and India, Central America, Argentina, Venezuela, and Peru. Thank you to all the governments and organisations who have donated to this fund. And now I'm going to talk to you about the Southern Hemisphere Committee. The Southern Hemisphere Subcommittee focuses on species and provides the basis for work for other subcommittees such as AI and Robert has mentioned. We are currently preparing to conduct an in-depth assessment of non-Antarctic Southern Hemisphere blue whales, with the handover from SH to IA anticipated in 2024. This is currently around 2 years behind schedule, and a much shorter duration. Population appearing to be in worse condition. Increasing environmental availability caused by climate change appears to be underpinning these poor calving years in the South Atlantic. To better understand the population dynamics of southern right-whales, we are developing models that account for this environmental and climatic change in the Southern Ocean. For fin whales, we have mapped in detail areas of high density and have reviewed genetic structure within the South Atlantic. There is no evidence for genetic population structure within the Southern Hemisphere, which is particularly relevant to our work, as it allows us to decide the scale of threat, however severe fin whale recovery can be assessed regionally as well as globally. Much of the SH work is supported by the Southern Ocean Research Partnership, also called SWOP. The partnership is a multilateral, non-lethal scientific research initiative facilitates coordination and collaboration of Southern Ocean science for the African Ocean. There are currently 13 member states, however, membership is open to all, and all new members are welcome. The partnership has 7 research teams covering Antarctic, blue, humpback, Antarctic minke, southern right, fin, and killer whales. The partnership scientists engage in innovative and minimally invasive research methods, including acoustic, carbon thermal tracking, photo identification and genetics, as well as the development of novel ecological theory. The partnership does an excellent job of disseminating its research findings throughout the international scientific community, through reporting to the IWC and publishing in peer-reviewed journal papers. 438 scientific papers have come from this partnership. In addition, 22 university students have based their theses on partnership data and activities. More than 15 cruises have been led or supported by the partnership scientists, and the partnership fund has supported 31 projects. Again, many thanks to the countries and organisations that have donated to this fund. The work of SH and the partnership also contributes to the scientific objectives of the Southern Ocean Sanctuary. If you wish to know more about the SOC partnership, please check out the IWC website, where the thing that I have briefly mentioned today is given in more detail. Now we will move on to our topic-based subgroups, and I will lead with talking of science. There are currently two sanctuaries designated: the Indian Ocean Sanctuary, established in 1979, and the Southern Ocean Sanctuary, established in 1994. The schedule states that the Southern Ocean Sanctuary shall be reviewed every 10 years, and 2024 will mark the third decade of its establishment. To meet the review deadline, we began preparations in 2022. A steering group has been established in terms of reference agreement. Funding has been requested to support the two-day meeting to finalise the report, and this is going to be the public documentation response to this meeting. For the Indian Ocean Sanctuary, the schedule does not provide a timetable for review. The first and only review of the ILS was in 2002. To conduct a review of the Indian Ocean Sanctuary, a process similar to that of the Southern Ocean Sanctuary would be required. That's agreement on terms of reference, establishing a draft group, and the review of all available material. And again, funding will be required to support the report draft limited. As guidelines for the Indian Ocean Sanctuary review are not explicit, we request guidance from you, the Commission, on whether you wish us to commence planning for the review of the Indian Ocean Sanctuary, and also in what time period would you like that.
Thank you, Lindsay. The next subcommittee is environmental concerns, and the subcommittee has one of the most extensive agendas of all the subgroups. On that agenda, pollution has been a prominent item for many, many years, and trying to better understand the effects of pollutants on cetacean populations, which isn't an easy task. And so a lot of modeling is going into trying. The subcommittees are also looking at a variety of diseases of concern with the potential that with climate change, more diseases might be emerging, and so they're trying hard to keep a handle on and understand what these different diseases probably might be spreading if things are changing with exposure. And he has promoted the One Health approach. So it's not just looking at contaminants by themselves, but it's in conjunction with and other things. So he also has other topics on his agenda, such as stranding, looking at cetacean welfare, especially as it applies to stranded animals. And then pretty regularly workshops or pre-meetings. And in the last few years, there's one on climate change, marine debris or debris, you prefer, and ocean warming. And then regularly we have soccer, which is State of the Cetacean Environment Report. And Michael Sohovich is one of the key people that helped draft that. So Michael, thank you for your efforts there. So we also have a subcommittee called Ecosystem Model. And at the last commission meeting, we were guided to try to better understand the role of cetaceans in the ecosystem. Do they help with transfer of nutrients? Or yes, what is their role? And so we've had some challenges because of COVID and we were having a workshop. We were finally decided to go ahead and have a virtual workshop earlier this year. And that group made some progress, but there's still lots to do. And that effort will really need to occur in person and continue to try to hold those discussions virtually. Is this not a good way to promote work? So we have another subcommittee called Photo ID that focuses on to let's look at photo ID issues as they relate to and many cases individuals are identified by nicks in the dorsal fin, such as the picture there, or by pigment patterns such as on the tails of humpback whales, or modeling on the sides of the blue ends. And so he has been discussing automated matching algorithms that very feasible to have a large number of photos in a short period of time, and trying to match those by hand is very difficult. And so having matching algorithms is really helpful. And this is a kind of project that is very suitable for citizen science. People on whale watching groups can take appropriate photos of whales and submit them, and then we can learn more about distribution and other aspects. There are several collaborative catalogs that PH has been promoting, and they've also developed some outreach material, such as the photo ID placard here, or at least this is part of it. And it discusses and points out what kind of photos are the appropriate ones to use. So you can see photos here that some are the right ones and some are the wrong ones. Some of the wrong ones are not very helpful. There's been some outreach from PA. And then this group, databases and related issues, is under the guidance of Mike Double from Australia. And there are many databases that very often maintain that the science committee uses. These include photo catalogs and other sorts of databases. We also help to promote the national progress reports. I would like to point out that it includes not very low reporting rates, despite the fact that conventions direct member nations to submit progress reports annually. And so in 2022, only 14 member countries submitted progress reports. That's the lowest that ever been, and so we strongly encourage all countries to submit progress reports. This subcommittee is tried hard to work with the Secretary to make the submission of the progress reports much easier. So Dr. Mike, if you need more guidance on that, or we can try to help you too. There's certainly some further work meant for the national progress report submission, trying to integrate databases. We also want to point out that funding is an issue, that the scientific committee has a research fund, and we can put funding requests in proposals for the establishment of the database, but that doesn't mean those funds are available for the long-term use. And so there needs to be some discussion about how we can maintain consistent funding to keep these databases active, functional, and both provide advice that the scientific community uses, and our advice to and I think this is the last subcommittee. You can see that we have a lot. I think we've got 16 subcommittees, and whale watching is one that's made a lot of progress in the last several years. In close collaboration with conservation communities, whale watching standing working group, or working group, whatever the title is. And And so one of those is and working with the secretariat. One of those is the whale watching handbook, and strongly encourage you to go to the website and take a look at that. Beyond Mitten was instrumental in getting all the information into the handbook with a amount of help from the secretariat. And John is also really good at bugging scientific committee members to provide input as well. And then the whale watching guiding principles were also updated. The IWC first had principles established in 1896. So long past time to update those and have it occurred here in collaboration with the CC Bill. Whale watching tries to better understand the impact of whale watching to participation with regional reviews as we can. COVID certainly made that difficult with virtual meetings, but we also have some modeling work going on, modeling and assessment of whale watching impact. So that way, not to be confused with Hawaii. And I think Alex has most of the remaining slides.
Thank you, Robert. So I'm going to now discuss the work of the subgroups in the science committee. And we're now going to present items related to the science committee plenary. And the list on this slide provides an outline, the topics that we plan to cover the next slide. And we're going to start with the budget. In the last 4 years, over £900,000 were requested by the scientific committee research funds. This corresponds to an average of about £220,000 per year. The scientific committee budget is divided into 6 categories, which are shown in 5 blocks on the right of the slide here. Most of the funds are used by research projects, workshops, and writers from the scientific community. Between 2019 and 2022, the committee funded 36 research projects and 21 workshops. Some workshops were co-funded through collaboration with other organizations, and you can find details of these projects in the SC report. Now this chart shows the SC research budget is relatively evenly distributed across broad topics covered by the committee. Similar amounts of funding are allocated to assessment-related work, conservation-related topics, and to invite participants to the scientific community. Over the last 2 years, the scientific committee discussed the possible implications of potential reductions in the committee's budget, as well as changes in the scientific committee meeting structure as part of the commission's work to balance the budget. Details of the discussions can be found in the scientific committee reports of 2021 and 2022. But we would like to now highlight the following points. The scientific committee budget has been severely affected by the financial situation of the IWC. The budget was already reduced by 30% in 2018. And we're discussing additional reduction every. The scientific committee leadership engaged with the budgetary subcommittee to develop options to balance the commission's budget, and we thank the budgetary subcommittee for the opportunity to have input from us. Options that require cuts in the scientific committee research and meeting budget will impact the work of the committee. The committee stresses that annual in-person meetings are the best option to fully achieve the commission's mandate in a timely manner. The committee's schedule will reduce the scientific committee's ability to address important management and conservation problems, and the ability of the committee to provide the same level of advice to the commission, for example, advice related to the ASW lines. And finally, the scientific committee requests guidance from the commission on how to reduce and prioritize its agenda should a change in the work structure of the committee be needed. And that's very important. We need your help to help us achieve our goals and work on that. Talking a little bit about the working method of the committee, the scientific committee is expected to regularly update the committee rules of procedure and the handbook. In light of the discussions of potential changes in the meeting schedule and the potential need for regular virtual meetings, the scientific committee agreed that the scientific committee agreed to update the rule of procedure and the handbook once the commission decides for the scientific meeting structure and budget rules. The scientific committee is working on a new communication initiative to develop new communication rules and materials that will describe the work of the scientific committee more effectively with the commission. The communication initiative will not replace the scientific committee report. The report will continue to provide a record of the discussion and recommendations of the scientific committee in a detailed and technical format. The committee has identified key tools and opportunities that will assist us with this task. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go into details here, but I wanted to point out that they can be found in the document presented to FNA yesterday, the document FNA/68/7.2.2/01. And I invite you to look at that document. We plan to fully launch the communication initiative in IWC69. And I would like to thank Mike Phillips from Australia, Pete Wilson from the Secretary, and the Communication Initiative Steering Committee for their leadership in developing this initiative on behalf of the Senate. The committee should be better prepared to address the potential extinction of cetacean species. Therefore, they developed, along with the Conservation Committee, what we call the Extinction Initiative. This initiative was designed to address a key component of the IWC mission, which is preventing cetacean extinction. This initiative provides a mechanism for the IWC to respond in a timely manner to an actual extinction of cetacean species, to be proactive in highlighting pending extinctions, and to increase communication and outreach efforts. We would like to thank Mark Simmons from the UK and Michael Stahovich from Austria who lead the development of this initiative. The use of telemetry devices for tanks and significantly improved study of free-ranging cetaceans with important conservation and management stations. Studying technology becomes more readily available to the scientific community. The development of best practices is important to ensure that tanks are used safely and effectively. In 2018, the committee hosted a joint workshop with the U.S. Office of Naval Research and the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration to review tanking technology and to develop best practice guidelines for cetacean tanking. The report of the workshop and new guidelines have been published in the IWC journal. The committee endorsed both documents and recommended contracting governments to adopt the guidelines as part of the permitting process. Talking a little bit about succession planning. Sorry. The scientific committee holds a wealth of highly valuable institutional knowledge that is at risk through the loss of senior members of the scientific committee and the secretary. To mitigate this problem, we have a few measures in place. We have identified people with required technical skills and supported their attendance of scientific committee meetings to help them learn the key methods and procedures used and why we use them. And also all conveners of subgroups in the scientific committee now have a co-convener to help with the ever-expanding workload and the group session. Transparency is at the heart of the scientific committee working methods so that people can understand how and why recommendations are made. For example, the Secretariat has been working with the committee to move computer code used in simulation trials to an open hosting platform to better manage the code and to make it more accessible to others. The scientific committee relies on data collection and information in order to provide the best advice to the Commission. To this end, we are indebted to a number of initiatives funded from government and organizations. The IWC Power Program, Power stands for Pacific Ocean Oil Ecosystem Research, is a great example. Continuing on to the highly successful solar cruises in the Southern Ocean, the IWC Power Program is providing valuable information on sufficient abundance and distribution in the North Pacific. The program is very generously supported by international collaboration. The government of Japan kindly provides the vessel and crew for a total of about £1 million in kind contribution. The Southern Ocean Research Partnership, which Lucy referred to a little while ago, has a fund, and this fund received about $55,000 in donations in 2018. And in combination with these donations, the fund has funded 24 projects for a total of $600,000. We also have the Small Station Voluntary Fund, which has received donations totaling £66,000 in 2018. And along with existing funds, the Small Station Fund has supported 12 projects for a total of $127,000. And finally, there have been also general donations to the Scientific Community Research Fund. And these kind of donations came from various governments, including the governments of Belgium, France, Italy, and Netherlands, and a number of NGOs, all of which are in the slide here. And the scientific community is very thankful for these donations and contributions from all of you. And I would point out that this fund supported research proposals that address recommendations from the scientific community. These proposals are reviewed by experts from scientific area for value for money, and perhaps most important, for their fit to the work of the scientific community and guidance. The scientific community relies on scientific experts that give up their time and share their expertise. Given the global nature of our organization, the scientific community seeks to improve the geographic spread of its membership. To this end, we have recently created an intersessional group to work with UNAPA, APOCO, and IGO West African nations to organize a series of training workshops and to encourage collaboration and knowledge sharing. An important part of the scientific fund is to bring expertise from scientists all over the world to inform our discussions and to ensure that we are providing the best advice possible. The list here in the slide provides an example of countries from which invited participants were brought to the scientific meeting in 1929. And finally, the Scientific Research Fund and voluntary funds have supported projects across the whole entire globe and across all ocean, in the whole entire world, both ocean and freshwater species. With that, I will hand it to Ian, who is going to talk about our journal.
Thank you, Alex. We're nearly done, folks. Don't worry. The Journal of Cetacean Research and Management is managed by the Secretariat with an editorial board made up of SC members. We would like to thank the board and all reviewers for giving up their time to help run our journal and ensure the science we publish is the highest standard. The journal is run for the benefit of the scientific committee. It runs a free-to-publish, open access model. This is designed in conjunction with the ethos of editorial support to encourage researchers from developing countries and early career scientists. It plays an important role allowing the SC to publish quick work related to the management and conservation of cetaceans, increasing transparency and allowing external scrutiny. Given the journal's role in promoting the work of the IWC and the importance of sound science with decision making and the changing way in which people access information, the Secretariat, in consultation with the board, have redesigned the journal to make it more accessible online, with a new website, formatting and discoverability, which has already led to an increase in its performance metrics, such as impact factor and citation rates. Thank you.
Thank you again. So we're almost done. For our final acknowledgements, we would like to thank all the scientific meeting participants, especially IPs, for their contribution to the work of the scientific meeting. We would like to acknowledge the Secretariat. Obviously, the scientific meeting couldn't operate without the support from the Secretariat, and all the efforts from everyone are really appreciated. We want to acknowledge the many decades of work dedicated by Cherry and Greg thank them, so I'm not gonna spend too much time here, except that, I want to say that while, thank you, Robert, while, they don't work for the IWC directly anymore, we're fortunate to have them, we're fortunate they agree to have continue to work with the scientific community at Robbins. We would like to welcome Ian and Ian Steinman and his daughter Carla, who took over for Greg and Sherry. They both started working with the scientific community in their professional period, and we're pleased to have them. We also would like to acknowledge the scientific community group of leaders and rapid groups. These amazing people work really hard to move forward with the agenda of the scientific community. They are the backbone of the community and they represent great value for money. Computers and rapporteurs donate hours of their time to the scientific community, organizing the work of various groups, guiding the discussions and producing the scientific reports. Some of the scientific community conveners are here today, and we encourage you to talk to them if you have any questions. And primarily, in addition to the three of us up here, Jeff Stevens is here, Mike Double is here, Dave Weber is here, and Greg Donovan is here. So please come talk to us or talk to them if you have questions about something. And finally, final slide is just to reiterate what Robert said in the beginning, is that we will have a table outside for the scientific community, and we would encourage everyone to come and talk to us about anything you want to know about the work of the scientific community. So please come and see us, and so we can chat and tell us what more we can do and what more you want to learn from the work that we do. And if you can't come to the table, you can send questions via email to scquestions@IWC.in. IT email is on the screen right there. And last, we would like to invite everyone to an evening of celebration and information on Wednesday, October 19th at 7 p.m. in the Emerald Ballroom. During this event, we will have presentations about the very voluntary funds to support the work of the scientific community and the conservation community. And thank you.
Thank you very much. An excellent presentation. And thank you also to my side to your sorry, and for your work. We have here all of us on the was not able to show all his work during this pandemic years, and that's I would like to take this opportunity, Robert, to thank you very much for overseeing and for years 2018, 2021, including the first workshop meetings, the first workshop chair as well. And this report will be first brought in front of you first today. I understand, Robert, that you retired now, from the scientific community, but also from your day job at North in Alaska, and understand how you have more time for enjoying with your family and enjoying skiing. I would say that you will always be welcome here in Slovenia. We have some more natural and cultural things over the techniques. Next opportunity during next day. So thank you very much. And I also presume that on behalf of everyone we can be over each process.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Well, Frank, I also want to thank you for everything you've done. I learned a lot from you. It was a great experience of mine. I think you led the scientific community through changes that were unprecedented. And I really appreciate the opportunity to work with you and everything you've done for the community. I think I can say that I'm representing our community and thanking you for being here today, presenting what was next to us. And I'm also glad that you're continuing involvement with the scientific community and look forward to working with you. So thank you very much.
Great, Alex. Thank you very much for the words that I mentioned earlier. When I agreed to be vice chair, I was terrified for 2 years. What had I gotten myself into? What did I agree to do? But as I got closer, I realized, again, as I said earlier, that everybody on the scientific committee wants the committee to be successful. And that really took the load off. Once I became chair, Nairobi was really good, but then the pandemic hit. And like, what are we going to do? How are we going to make this work? And so we created something new, and it certainly wasn't entirely my what I did that made it work. But it was especially from the help of all the folks at the Secretariat, and Alex and all the conveners that helped create the system that wasn't perfect, and virtual meetings aren't perfect and never will be, but they sure beat the heck out of not meeting at all. So it's been a real pleasure to serve the commission and serve the committee, and serve the North South Borough and the IWC over the years, and it's certainly something that I'll look back on fondly for a long time and very much proud to. So thank you again.
All the best, also to Alex and Lindsay for your day. So thank you. And just the next slide, which is on the agenda presentation to work. And retrieving the rest of the life and is simpler and all is without under the project discussion, as it has been already as part of the SMA work and there. So I would suggest actually post this item as well, and we will see how this will discuss the action items. I hope that's okay with everyone. Okay. Now we move to another agenda item, which is very quickly. So I will ask co-chairs, chair and co-chair of the administration committee to join us here. Just to use in between, we didn't forget about what we promised to show regarding participants and credentials. So because worldwide, as soon as Victoria will have the last information, we will announce it during this week. Now, this agenda item will allow chairs of the commission to provide summary of the progress. We have also presentation of main recommendations. And in the same manner, the Congress committee will make a presentation. And then this is the rule and we in the same manner as all the questions, all the information for that. Rachel, thank you for. Okay. Before we start, I'd like to congratulate the excellent presentation made by the chairs and vice chairs of the committee. I was offended when our items of this spreadsheet and told me that our presentation was more meaningful than ours. It's true, but we got a realistic approach, so we refer to that. And I'd like to start with acknowledging the standard group chairs, the topic leads, and we wouldn't do probably anything if it was not thanks to the secretariat and this is what it is, and Elizabeth Ellie. And certainly the collaboration with the chairs of our committees. So I will start with a brief outline of presentation. We were discussing how to present this with the secretariat and the chairs of the committee. We agreed that there are many ways, many for the members of delegations, so it would be good to give a background of how we have our conservation committee and what are also the conservation committee. And then we will continue the midterm review of our conservation strategic plan for 16 to 2026. And so we will have some background also in each of the items or the issues of our agenda. So the background for the conservation committee. No? Okay. So over time, the commission carried out more conservation work to help deliver and benefits to the patient, and the conservation committee was formed to respond to an increasing number of conservation solutions moving towards a broader conservation agenda. And between 1976 and 2002, we had 80 resolutions of conservation related or conservation oriented, some of the risk factors like eye catch, noise and visual pollution, ship strikes, other were oriented towards conservation management, on sanctuaries, the watching, protection of certain species, and then we have other that we have made conservation towards, which is a collaboration with international organizations. And I'm going to show you. Yeah. So what you see here is the resolution that gave origin to the conservation committee. It was achieved by a single majority, but won only by a difference of 5 votes. And although we were pleased that the conservation committee could be created on the back of this, we were disappointed that this decision was controversial among those who didn't support it. And the chairs of the conservation committee continue to strongly encourage those countries to engage more actively in the conservation agenda. Whatever our position is, as Robert said, we all want to protect the long-term future of patients. And this is just to show you, this is the agenda probably of the second meeting of conservation committee. So the full agenda will be the sheep strikes in stingy ways and other issues that we continue to work with. Now, where are we now after we have the so where are we? We had last year our 75th anniversary, year after celebration. And now for the year of the moratorium on commercial whaling, and where is the conservation committee? If I can go first, we have now strategic plan. We have a strategic plan. And so that's a vision, healthy, well-managed, and conservation population worldwide. We have objectives and that are sound conservation advice information, best practices for managing threats, conservation agenda collaboration with the IWC and with the relevant international organizations, and securing resources. There you go. And securing resources for the conservation committee. And we also have assigned some priority actions. You have our work plan and our working methods as well. Now, some of the key conservation developments, we have our midterm review. As I mentioned, we have a strategic plan, we have the work plan, and the working methods. We did work intensively, and I'd like to thank some of you who are here that were very helpful and diligent to deal with the WGO process and what those some recommendations were relevant for the conservation committee. We have the voluntary conservation reports, database of recommendations, and we scientific committee of mentioned of this joint working group of the conservation committee. So we'll be talking mainly about the midterm review, but this is based on this range of work carried out by the conservation committee. And we have some of the key conservation committee developments. We have identification initiative, the well-watching campaign. We heard to those, the TNPs, the ship strikes, the marine creek, and anthropogenic underwater noise. These two are examples of topics that we're developing right now. And now the work of the conservation committee has the intersessional activities. Is underpinned by a very, very busy and active intersessional agenda. We have a range of intersessional meetings. We have the 2019, 2020, and 2022 conservation committee planning meeting working group. And this is a key group that we created that keeps us on track and helps to build and develop the agenda for the next meetings. And then we also have the two meetings the pandemic covers offsite. So on when we recover our journey into the safety committee and conservation committee in 2021, 2022, meetings of the standing group, ICAPS, and we had several meetings of the conservation management plans with those species, South America, Southern Hemisphere, Pacific, in the Atlantic, Franciscana. And then we have several correspondence groups and workshops dealing with marine debris climate change. The functioning of whales. So let's go to the midterm review. And the next one, please. So we were asked, I think, in 2020, I think, to go and do a midterm review of our strategic plan. So what we did is we asked the chairs of the standing working groups, the topic leads, and etc., to provide input on those items they were seeing there. It's progress and delivery of objective, Actions to address by the priority threats and measures of success outlined in the strategic plan. And then we also have the progress in implementing the conservation committee recommendations from 2016 to 2020, and the overall progress of the conservation committee over the last 5 years. And according to our terms in the strategic plan, we are going to present now the priority threats and actions, those ones that have to progress areas. And we start with effective financing. So in 2016, but the history goes a bit back. Some years ago, we discussed and we tried to bring some expertise in terms of hiring a group that was specialized in fundraising. And nevertheless, we were prepared to have an in-house fundraiser identified, and the music in 2022, we have one now in place that will help us get hopefully the funds we will need here. And in 2017, we created the steering group for the voluntary conservation funds. Then now we have a project template developed to record the concept projects and work plans for conservation committee, standing working groups, and very important, we have a guidance developed for the acceptance in funds and the growth of fundraising. So, well watching, and I have to thank Mike and Walt for being very active. Double chair as a mate and for the well watching and working group. This was our first standing working group, and Alex and Robert mentioned Jan Lincoln, and I had to acknowledge her tremendous work. So now Greg is here, was doing some here. We had the first meeting to decide what we were going to do with the standing working group. And we met in Argentina. And the idea of having a handbook as a live document for the conservation committee and commission was crazy. And then we go to the other backgrounds. But we developed a strategic plan in recognition of the rapid expansion of effective movements. Growing economic importance, this plan has resulted primarily in developing the IWC online way watching as mentioned, and increased communication between the commission and other bodies with respect to the watching and one of those is the CMS is here, and thank you for the support. Now the handbook was decided for it to provide specialist knowledge and expertise that is needed to understand and manage the potential impacts of whale watching tourism. I think one of the important things we have in this handbook is the aim that it's aimed at 3 items. One is the those responsible for developing and managing the standards and guidelines for whale watching and industry at national or regional levels. Then we have the siting industry, these basically business companies, the tour operators and small companies that do whale watching. And I think one of the key parts that was decided working on this is decided to members of the public who are seeking a reliable and unbiased information plan of high quality whale watching. And you will see there the logo of the whale watching group that we want to highlight. This is a very important part of the fund. It's earlier, and we work with many people. And I think we need to promote the handbook around the world as the best source of knowledge for best practices. Those were the things from the secretariat. Our next is the conservation management plans. Wow. Okay, so CMPs, these conservation management plans, are important conservation initiatives of the IWC. And it is also a conservation committee as a commission as framework for the member communities within the range of vulnerable station population in French states to work jointly, not only between states, but also to integrate other key stakeholders into the implementation of these conservation actions. And I expect that most of somewhere around here for how which is being done. And I'm this species that's mentioned already by Alex, as you know, we have reductions in most patients, and then we have a list of others that are coming in production line, and one of them I just mentioned is we're having a workshop just after the commissioners meeting to develop a CMP as was requested by the design company. Then under conservation management plans, we have updating we're updating the work plan and seeking endorsement for the strategic plan, which basically has established standing working vice chair position. We are having a big agenda there and spreading financing. We have to help the amount of money, but we have to help and deny also the CMP friends how to finance and monitor and evaluate the CMP programs, and also improving our communications, including in the newsletter. We have one. We have worked to raise awareness of the programs and publishing the handbook. And in our recent meeting 2 days ago, or the day before yesterday, we had these recommendations endorsed for the CMP vice chair for the work plan and strategic plan. And also we have some recommendations for the reports we received from the report of our meeting sometime in the city of one of these I'll mention a few here. One is update the Western Records CMP and revitalize the memorandum of patient and endorse the 2024 implementation plan for the South White West, and endorse the Francis campaign. We can do that on Wednesday. Means to show the campaign. And now let me move to sheep strikes and taking them for local. The reminder of those who are new, sheep strikes are one of the main risk factors for patients. I think we eat for fighters. And they have every type of pest, small, large, medium, but also not only large, but we have also small station. And for that, it's really difficult to ever separate once there was 20,000 well per year with us at the end of the but the important thing is we have a strategic plan to explore and develop different approaches, strategies to activate permanent reduction in sheep strike. And we have mitigation measures in part of the report. No, there's no silver bullet, there's no universal solution to this. Whatever we do to mitigate has to be a menu of components and ongoing operational, ecological, and training for important now to achieve these in the commission and conservation committee and pension committee. We have the global database of the commission. Identify areas for sheep strikes, some training and technologies, identify populations at risk that we run sheep strikes, and that was mentioned by a few minutes ago. And we have, of course, collaboration with other organizations. And in this regard, the IWC is working jointly with several key ones for the maritime. International Maritime Import, the International Maritime Organization, and both. And you see there is the Spanish version of the leaflet. The further applies on reducing, risk of collision. And now we have some new work, started, we have a strategic plan to mitigate strikes, in 32, below the 20% committee. And this work plan was endorsed by the last committee during the 60 meeting, and now we have the conservation committee was endorsing it, and they already support, the creation of the sheep site, the expert panel, and endorse also the fund we have our data, manager role. And I think I move now to marine debris, and I'd like to thank you, Katie, and Netherlands to supporting me with Mark Siemens and Mark, who is somewhere around there. And what you see there's the photo below is a photo of a sperm whale. When the sperm whale was also eating that ropes, plastic, curing unit, and the top one is an angle whale, like by glass of wine to but the IWC is working to understand and assess and mitigate the potential risk from different types of marine debris. And we have had several workshops. One was focused on the scientific aspects and analyzing the different threats, knowledge gaps, and techniques. Then we have a second workshop that is focused on practical management actions that the IWC take in order to contribute to expertise more effectively to many of these different global marine litter initiatives now and then. The third review lesson makes information on ingestion, in southern nutrition gear, predatory and toxicology of marine litter. And certainly these workshops have led to a series of post actions and recommendations. For the resolution of that. Now, what we're doing now, the commission recommendations of would encourage the secretary to complete and exchange of letters with the local conservation with GI and pursue working collaboration. So we have worked with them. We can also the work with these to remove illness and job performance. Accounting for the experiences. And as a result of these communications in the secretariat and GI, the IWC was at consider signing the triple GI statement support, and this was accepted. And then we also have the global partnership of marine leader, initiatives from the United Nations. The Secretary of the United participated in virtual conference in 2018. Third, and all came down the next online, we are doing this is on the solution of that nation and bring up and plan. So it's an international legal instrument. Then we can move to bypass communication initiative, and I like to thank Stephanie for the tremendous work and Margaret Garcia that and now we are going to work and now we have Cecilia from this also here. And so most of you know these more than 300,000 patients are killed in rowers around the world in fishing gears. It could be industrial fishing, it could be a small fishing, totally different. And there's no doubt that the IWC, the world's body addressing the science, conservation, and management of stations, it has the capability to play a major role in global efforts to address climate change for other legal reasons for participation in other animals. In 2016, because of this, and it took several years actually to be working in these, but finally, in 2016, we were able to work through PMI application initiative. And the PMI test or is integrated in 4 different layers. One is improving climate assessment, so we can determine the priorities and measures of success. For climate testing, innovation, testing, education, and management. Methods, again, there is no single solution or silver bullet to prevent sufficient climate change. There are some cases. But we have also transferred our expertise, technology, and management measures in context of fishing communities, and very importantly, engagement with other relevant international organizations that are fisheries and catch management. And this is critical in discussing, really good work. We will be making food, we will be foreign forces and engage with those international organizations that think we will fisheries management. And so we have worked with our RFMOs, etc. And an example of this collaboration is that photo to the right, which is the handbook to prevent migrants of in workshop that were crowned with these guidelines. And I will share for 5 minutes. Okay. Okay, sorry. And then we have the PMI capacity building program. We have pilot projects that are identified, which are now under development, with those from Peru and the Republic of Congo. For being the most advanced and support it. And we have now the GF and common oceans areas, the international fishing, food and food. This is assessed and indicates potential lifestyle like that in different ocean basins in the ocean Pacific Ocean. And then we have also the as a package that mentioned capacity and technical angles to use on the whole life action. We have the t-shirts. Thank you very much. So let's learn out, and then after one break, we will continue this presentation. Information for you that the update participant list is on the web page. I wonder show the web page or the system. Otherwise, I will spend more of it for the web page. If you go to the web page and then you scroll just down under other machinery, you have a number of blue words, register, designation, etc. And last is draft list of response in this folder. So here you have a list of response. It's worth saying that these are three participants that registered before moving for the participation. And in the list, you see that there are no smart and fully made here. Most of our others are work here today in the morning. Now, regarding a list of countries with voting rights and then the national nations in discussion. The very test structure list. Okay, you see it on the screen. We also need to say that these things can change in the course, because this might appear or this might make a use. I see the request for the form from India.
Thank you. We have submitted the credentials today morning.
Those countries that are marked yellow still in the process, and the National Committee will also meet and then we will have more things. Thank you. Thank you. And now we break for coffee break, and we meet again here at 4 p.m. 16:00. Enjoy your coffee.
Mic check, check, check. Check 1, 2, 2. Check 1, 2. In the boost you more. Check, check, check. 1, 2, 2, 2. 2 better. Check, check. Or the same. Check, check. Microphone check. 1, 2. Microphone check. Webcast check. Check, check. Check, check. Check 1, 2, 2. Check 1, 2, 2. Check 1, 2, 2. Check 1, 2, 2. Mic check 1, 2, 2, 2. Anything coming through? Check, check. We're good. All right.
Distinguished commissioners, colleagues, let us start. I think the room is close to full. So now I think it's full enough. Therefore, if you allow, I will first introduce something that in our few last meetings appeared under actually closure of the meeting. And I will ask the technicians to pass the floor to Commissioner of Luxembourg. If you can pass the floor to Luxembourg, please.
Thank you, Chair. As it is the first time that Luxembourg takes the floor, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the government of Slovenia for hosting this meeting again here in Portorož. We feel very much at home in Slovenia now, having spent 3 or 4 meetings in Bled and 3 here in Portorož. So thank you very much. So it is the third contest that we are organizing under the agenda item IWC Fund. And responding to the hunger of this organization for acronyms, we decided to call this contest WDM and BI, which stands for Whale Drawing Methods and Associated Bonding Initiative. And we would call upon all head of delegations of the contracting parties to participate into this drawing contest. So the idea of this contest would be for every head of delegation, be it a commissioner, alternate commissioner, or acting commissioner, to make a drawing of a whale. And we will then proceed to voting on the floor at the end of this meeting, of course, only if time allows, because I'm very much aware we have a very busy agenda. The idea behind this contest is to, for commissioners or head of delegations to team up with another head of delegation from a significantly different country, not your usual friends, but every delegate should produce her or his own drawing. But it would also be possible, if you would like to do a joint drawing, to make one single drawing with both acolytes. The idea behind teaming up with somebody is to have a kind of a referee to be sure that there is no cheating and that member nations will not hire an artist to produce the best drawing, but also to have this bonding experience, which I think could be very, very interesting and a very nice experience. We would also ask you to please take a selfie of you and your new friend while you're doing this drawing, and you can send it to Mark Tandy from the Secretariat. The email address is marked up there on the slide, so it's mark.tandy@iwc.int. And you can set your imagination free. So the theme is a whale, but the context in which you will draw the whale is limitless. It should just be according to PG-13. Remember, we're being filmed here. And the idea is also to put all these drawings together into a PDF document that we could send to all the participants of this meeting. So it can be a drawing, a cartoon, or if you feel like it, even a collage. Considering the voting rights, we are very open. So every delegation here during the meeting has one single vote, except maybe for Denmark. We would also like to have the distinguished Commissioner of Greenland maybe submitting a drawing. And for the voting, we would also include NGOs and other organizations present, but only one vote per organization to save some time. So please hand in your drawings by Friday before the lunch break. And as I mentioned, we will try to produce a little booklet with your pictures, your selfies, and your drawings. And I invite and strongly encourage every head of delegation to participate to this contest. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And there is a challenge, an additional one in front of us, commissioners. But I hope we have a number of interesting pictures by the end of this meeting, and then let the best win the prize. Thank you very much for this. And now we continue with the presentation of the Conservation Committee. Please, Lorenzo, take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. So we move now to our slide, please. Effective data collection and reporting. That's Pierre's fault. Because I'm gonna be able to. There we go. Thanks, Stuart. So let's move now to effective data collection and reporting. And at IWC66 in October 2016, sorry, I think the date is wrong in the slide. The Commission endorsed a recommendation from the Conservation Committee to establish an intersessional working group to develop draft structure and process for populating a web accessible database of IWC recommendations. And subsequently, development has moved forward and progress was reviewed during 2 intersessional meetings of the Joint Conservation Committee, Scientific Committee Working Group. The database facilitates the communication of IWC recommendations and review of their implementations. And the initial priority was to do it for Scientific Committee and Conservation Committee recommendations, but now it can be used and probably support the work of other committees as required. And a very important thing, it's also used by the Secretariat for work planning. And if we move to the next, I'm going to offer another glass of wine if somebody tells me what that drawing there means. Okay, so engagement with other organizations. I have to thank Rebecca, Sarah, the Saras and Pascate, Imogen, Ian, and Mark for their excellent job with these. And I would not say much here because there's, I think, an agenda item that deals specifically with this, and I will leave it to the Secretariat. Now let's move to the priority threats and actions, the medium progress areas. And we move to anthropogenic underwater noise, and that's been the good work of Miguel Íñiguez from Argentina and Arturo Andreolo from Brazil. And so they presented us the review of work to progress and increase the collaboration and us to endorse the work plan. And then they presented a questionnaire to compile the global information on marine seismic surveys from 2022 to 2027, I think. And this was presented during the Scientific Committee 68 meeting, and then it was presented to us. We had an interesting discussion with good input from the US to improve this questionnaire. And another important part is the participation of the IMO Marine Environment Protection Committee, the MIPEC 76 meeting to begin in 2023. I think that's the mid-January next year. And we can move to cetacean and ecosystem functioning. And this is one of my favorite works we do because there are plenty of papers and publications that show that to be able to do proper management of environmental issues or conservation actions, we need to work with other disciplines, not only natural science scientists, we need to work with social scientists, anthropologists, economists, and this was a tremendous effort by Chile with Barbara to bring in experts in economy from the World Bank, experts from consulting firms, universities, and other research institutes and NGOs. It was a really very, very nice. And this was the virtual workshop on socioeconomic values of the contribution of cetaceans to the ecosystem functioning that happened in April 2022. And we endorsed the report and the proposed work plan, but we are dealing now with a pilot project that it's in development, and probably we'll talk a bit of that on Wednesday. The next one, I like to thank again UK with Mark Siemens with climate change. We had a joint scientific committee, conservation committee workshop that I think was already mentioned before. And then we agreed in our past meeting on an intersessional group and to take into account the latest information on cetacean populations, provide clear advice on tools to mitigate its negative impacts and build resilience, and seek to develop an IWC climate change response program. And then we go to the limited progress areas. And here we go with that one, with the dead animals, chemical pollution. So we had a group from at the 2020 Conservation Committee meeting, and we are working with the recommendations of the Scientific Pollution 2025 workshop mentioned by the Scientific Committee, and see how we can support the development and how we can best engage with that from point of view or the way the work of the Conservation Committee. Now, this has been a difficult one. We have a British researcher, Graham Pierce, is doing a lot of good work. I mean, he has to work at the university too, but he has compiled some information. But we would ask and beg all of them, member countries, NGOs, IGOs, suggestions for additions to the intersessional group or some expert that can assist in the development. Again, from the point of view of the Conservation Committee, what we do, not the pure science, let's say that way, and also to help and suggest how to advance in the next steps of the work plan. And the other one was mentioned already, world sanctuaries and protected areas. I'm not going to say much that we, of course, support, and we will help the Scientific Committee as much as we can in reviewing the sanctuaries that were shown in the screen by Alex. And this is just a really quick look to the review progress on the Conservation Committee recommendations. You see the graph number one, it's a breakdown of the progress of all 108 recommendations. And we have those completed, which are, geez, I cannot read, 52% or something like that. Then we have in progress, and probably if you can, yeah, well, I hope you have better eyes than I do. And then we have ongoing. Ongoing are those that they don't have a deadline, like the whale watching handbook. They progress and progress and progress for a time. And then we have not started, and then we have the unknown. And on the other side, you will see that same by years, the progress recommendation as percentage of those made each year. So we can move to the next. And after we looked at all the work, oh, sorry. Oh, God, I got it wrong. Okay, so sorry, we have the species populations of urgent emerging concern that were mentioned, and we agree with the endorsement of the Extinction Initiative and with an amendment to the process to seek endorsement from the Commission at the biennial meetings or in urgent situations. And probably this could be through some kind of intersessional silence procedure or something that but we have to work on this issue. And I also like to work, thanks Mike and Mark for this good work. And I mean, there are some species, as Michael said, that it has so very sound science behind it that when it's urgent to do it, we should do it. And so after that, we have the, another here are our plan, we think we don't need to make major changes to the strategic plan after going to that. We need really a minor change, which is the current text shown there in red that says decline of the most at-risk cetacean population has been halted. I think we were over-inspired when we drafted that. And so we moved now to a more earth or foot to the, I don't know how to say that in English, but anyway, you'll understand we suggested a change. Decline of the most at-risk population is identified and management measures have been taken to reverse the decline. Now, if we can move to conclusions and recommendations. The main challenge we are facing is to begin buy-in and support from stakeholders and governments. Where we have the active participation of governments and other stakeholders, we have had very effective results, and BMI is one, whale watching could be another one. So please, we need, for example, we need a co-chair for CMPs. We need support in the chemical pollution. So please bring those expertise to the conservation committee. So I urge all the countries to support actively the work we do. And to finalizar. The new chair is Kat Bell. I've done more than I should have here. And I like also to welcome someone that has been very, very active in the Conservation Committee, Miguel Iñiguez from Argentina, our next vice chair. And with that, gracias, thank you, merci, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the excellent work done. So to Lorenzo and to Kat and all the members of the committee. We have heard the applause, which is thanking you from the whole podium here. We will have a fuller discussion, larger discussion, when this agenda item takes place later in our meeting on Wednesday under the agenda item 12. And there the floor will be open for interventions from the podium. If you have particular comments or questions, as Lorenzo and Kat invited, please approach them in between the breaks or whenever you see them. So there is this is an opportunity to get additional information, and also this is an opportunity for them to see where your interests lie. So it will be easier to prepare the presentation.
And also. Yeah, so sorry. Besides Ken and myself, there are also chairs of the standing working groups around topic leads. You can always approach them too. So thanks very much.
Now, Lorenzo, I think I can thank you also in the name of commissioners here for your excellent leadership of this committee over the 6-year period, for which have also basically been marked by virtual meetings, which were very challenging. We understand that you are not yet lucky enough to retire. You are moving on in your career. So we wish you every success in the years ahead. And you know you're also always welcome in Slovenia to taste a glass of our good wine. So thank you.
I have to thank all the co-chairs I had. I was lucky enough to have all from the UK, which is my favorite. She tolerated me. And also the secretariat again, I mean, we wouldn't do anything if it was not for the Saras. And then we have now Imogen and Ellie. And to all of you, the chairs, as I said before, the conservation committees, but all the commissioners and all the delegations and NGOs that come here to support us. Thank you.
Okay, and Kat, congratulations on your new position, and Miguel for the vice chair, and I wish you successful work. The work plan was part of the presentation, so you have also seen it. So with this, I close the agenda item 4. Thank you. Now we turn to the agenda item 5, which is Working Group on Operational Effectiveness. The WGOE has been meeting for the past 3 years, and most recently met on Tuesday, 13th October, in preparation for the discussions at the IWC68. I remind us that this group was tasked with making recommendations to the Commission to implement reforms that would improve the institutional and government arrangements of the Commission and its subsidiary bodies. These recommendations follow a report of the panel of independent reviewers from 2018, a workshop that was then held in 2019, and extensive consultations since 2019. There were resolutions that steered this work, and I would pass now the floor to the report to co-chairs of the working group. I presume it's Kat. Okay, thank you. Kat, please take the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Me again, but in a slightly different, wearing a different hat as co-chair of the WGOE. So you outlined a bit of background in your introduction, but for those that haven't been involved in the subcommittee meetings, I thought it would be helpful just to give a bit more background for context as well. So over the past 4 years, the WGOE have been working to develop the proposals currently on the table for consideration. These proposals have undergone significant consultation, with initial drafts being shared with all members of the Commission in February 2020. The unfortunate delay to IWC68 allowed more time for active outreach to those countries that had not been able to engage, as well as further rounds of comments to refine the draft proposals. The WGOE also held a number of virtual meetings during the intersessional period, which helped to progress discussions and to help achieve consensus on the recommendations being put forward for consideration by the Commission. On Thursday last week, we held an in-person meeting of the WGOE, which provided further opportunity to identify any outstanding concerns and finalise recommendations. As the WGOE is a subsidiary group of the Finance and Administration Committee, these proposals were also discussed in more detail during the F&A meeting yesterday. I will talk through the key points of each proposal before handing over to my co-chair to run through the F&A recommendations relating to the intersessional work on the future application of the rules of procedure change that was adopted this morning. As you will hopefully already be aware, there are 3 distinct proposals for consideration that have been intentionally drafted to enable the Commission to make separate decisions. To that end, we do not want disagreement on elements of one proposal to interfere with the ability of the Commission to make a decision on another proposal. I will first summarise points in papers 1 and papers 4, because these are slightly more straightforward. So first up, I think there's a slide on the next one. Next slide, sorry. I'll pause for a moment while we figure this out, just because I think it will help to make it clear what I'm just discussing.
While we are waiting a practical announcement, somebody lost a key from his room here in the hotel. So whoever is in the hotel and doesn't have the key, please at the end of the session collect it here. If it's not being collected, and then we will return it to the reception, and then if somebody from you here hears from this person, direct him please to the reception. Thank you. Let me just use the opportunity for another practical announcement. There will be a Slovene reception down, and just please come with the badges. That is, let's say, your entry ticket to the reception. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, I think we're running now. Next slide, please. One more. That's the wrong. Lisa. Great. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. Starting to think it might be might be something to do with me. But so back to first up then is paper 1. And this is the budget reform strategy, which was drafted by the budgetary subcommittee. And to note, this proposal is separate to, but complements the balanced budget proposal the BSc has also prepared for the Commission's consideration, which was due to be discussed tomorrow. So the reform strategy seeks to address some of the budgeting challenges facing the Commission through a series of sensible and practical principles to make budget processes easier. Some of the key principles in the strategy include balanced budgets, 4-year budget planning, a zero-based budget, and consistently costed Commission proposals. The F&A endorsed this proposal for approval by the Commission. Secondly is paper 4. Could you just go back one slide, please? Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And this is the strategic principles proposal. So this paper focuses on consideration of the need to develop work plans and a strategic plan for the Commission, with the goal to allow the Commission to provide clearer direction to and promote cooperation between its subsidiary bodies and across the Commission. There was some discussion within the WGOE about how this would best be achieved, and we arrived at the following options. To develop a work plan for the Commission to clearly identify work priorities and ways of working, and developing a strategic plan for the Commission, or to only develop a work plan for the Commission to clearly identify those work priorities and ways of working. If the Commission decides to develop a strategic plan, the Commission may choose to form a working group, and draft terms of reference for that working group can be found in Annex 1 of paper 4. F&A endorsed these options to be put forward to the Commission for consideration. The final paper, next slide please, is paper 2. So on governance reform, this consists of 2 distinct series of decisions for consideration. So this proposal should be considered the first step in an ongoing structural reform process. So the first recommendation from the WGOE is to adopt a new Commission committee structure, such that the Commission would have 4 committees: a Finance and Administration Committee, a Scientific Committee, a Conservation Committee, and a Management Committee. The Management Committee is proposed to consider issues relating to the management of whales and whaling and provide recommendations to the Commission. It would incorporate the existing functions of the ASW and infraction subcommittees. This proposal is a reorganisation of existing groups and is not intended to redefine the current work of the Commission. The WGOE therefore recommended that the terms of reference included in the annex of the proposal be adopted, but that we would recommend each committee to review its terms of reference intersessionally and submit proposals for consideration at IWC69. One of the points raised during the WGOE meeting on Thursday, next slide please, relates to how welfare is considered by these committees. Following some discussion, the recommendation was to retain the existing working group on whale killing methods and welfare issues, with terms of reference tweaked for operability. The remaining recommendations, next slide please, refer to what commonly became known as low-hanging fruit, and what this means in practice are things that can be relatively easily implemented. So these include items relating to working methods of the Bureau, specifically staggered Bureau membership, the expansion of Bureau membership to include the chairs of the 4 committees, and to make meeting documents available in advance of meetings. Issues relating to Commission meeting operations, including changes to the Commission meeting structure, generally only to allow issues to be discussed in plenary if they have already been discussed in subcommittees, to include rules of procedure as a review as a standing item on the F&A agenda and the Commission agenda, to simplify agendas to focus on priorities so that not every topic is under the committee's mandates. Agendas should be simplified to focus on key priorities. So the F&A endorsed this proposal being put forward to the Commission for further consideration. And before handing over to Lisa, I'd just like to thank all those involved in the drafting, particularly the chairs of the budgetary subcommittee and the commissioners from the Netherlands and Belgium, and to all those who have engaged so constructively throughout this process. Over to you, Lisa.
Thank you. I think we need to go to the last slide. One more. There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Kat. I was just going to summarize the, what I think were the recommendations that came out of Financial F&A Committee yesterday. The first one had to do with what we talked to, the first two had to do with, we already took place with the earlier this morning, having to do with the with voting rights for this meeting. Recall that in the paper, there were 2 additional options for consideration that many members expressed a desire to work on intersessionally. So that is a possibility for future work of the commission for both to consider both option 2 and 3 of the voting rights paper. And the other thing that came up in our discussions in F&A was for the working group to consider issues relating to obtaining visas for contracting governments to participate in IWC meetings. And with that, Chair, we'll turn it back to you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank you both, Kat and Lisa, for very good work done and for the presentation of this report. And as we have time, we can go to actually the next step, which is I would open the floor for interventions from the floor. Currently, I have India on my list. So, India, please take the floor.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. I am the Additional Secretary, Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, looking after the financial matters. I'm also the representative of Department of Expenditure, Ministry of Finance, Government of India. It's a great pleasure for the Indian delegation to be here in Portoroz for participating in the IWC68. Government of India extends its gratitude to the Government of Slovenia for hosting the 68th meeting of the International Whaling Commission. We also thank the Commission for making great efforts in organizing this meeting after a gap of 4 years, keeping the members together. We would like to take this opportunity to mention a few observations regarding the budget reform strategy. It is indeed critical that the Commission recognizes the fiscal challenges that challenge all intergovernmental organizations, including the IWC. The experience of outstanding balances post-pandemic and natural disasters that confront many contracting countries points out towards the issue of long-term fiscal sustainability of the Commission too. In the budget reform strategy, there has been a welcome strategic shift to zero-based budgeting. In addition, it has been resolved to move from 2 years budget cycle to 4 years budget cycle. The mechanisms of audit trails and audit methodologies have also been explained. While we support the critical shifts, we recommend that some fiscal re-engineering strategies would be critical to implementation of zero-based budgeting and a paradigm shift to 4 years budget cycle. An essential ingredient for a successful zero-based budgeting strategy is also to move from output-only oriented budget plans to outcome-oriented budget determination. We recommend that Commission may like to consider an output-outcome framework, OOF, with measurable indicators as a critical input to long-term zero-based budgeting. It would be essential to not only have target-oriented approaches, but also collective results and qualitative improvements due to delivery of services. India would be willing to support a subgroup for framing the modalities of output-outcome framework if the Commission considers Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, India. I would just like to check with the technicians, as I don't see any request for the floor. If there is no request for the floor, or Antigua, please take the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since the first time Antigua is taking the floor, I'd like to congratulate you, Mr. Chair, for the stellar way in which you are conducting the business of the Commission today, and hope that we will continue in this fashion for the rest of the Commission's meeting. I am taking the floor to discuss the recommendation for the Bureau, the construct and the composition of the Bureau. It is the view of Antigua and Barbuda that a Bureau for any organization should consist only of contracting government members, and subcommittee members to the Bureau should be by way of resource person support and not direct members of the Bureau. So I wanted to ask the both co-chairs of the committee, what exactly was the thinking with regards to this recommendation that would have several chairpersons of all the committees be members of what is a steering committee, de facto steering committee of the organization, and would like that recommendation to be tweaked so that we have contracting governments as members of the Bureau supported by resource persons of these committees, instead of these committees become members of the Bureau. Because what is happening, Mr. Chair, as I'm seeing in the past, the Bureau is very skewed, where there is no balance, because it is already composed of committee members that are almost doubling the representation of individual governments. And I don't think that is fair or equitable. So perhaps you want to look at that recommendation more carefully.
Thank you, Antigua and Barbuda. Do you wish to respond? Do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Antigua and Barbuda, for those comments. We would be happy to discuss any kind of tweaks you'd like to make to that, if helpful after this session.
Thank you very much. As I see no request for the floor, and as the next agenda item is finance and administration, where the report is not ready yet, I just wonder if we are to discuss anything under any other matters under the working group on operational effectiveness. If there is any request for the floor on this. If not, then I'm in a position to adjourn for today. I don't see any request for the floor. So with this, I close also the agenda item 5.3 and adjourn the meeting for today. Tomorrow we will meet at 9 o'clock, and we will continue according to the timeline, which is with the working group, excuse me, with the FNA agenda item, which is 6, and then 7 proposals to amend the schedule, 8 proposed resolutions. And just in case we are also very effective and quick tomorrow, we might also take some of Wednesday's agenda item. So just for you to be prepared. I wish you a good evening. Look forward to see you at the reception, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.